Set in Edinburgh, the film begins with Mark Renton's narration as he and his friend, Spud, sprint down Princes Street, pursued by security guards. Renton states that he decided live life as a substance addict. The rest of Renton's close circle of football enthusiast friends are introduced: con artist Sick Boy, clean-cut athlete Tommy, and sociopath Frank Begbie, whom along with Tommy, has decided not to do substance and criticizes his friends regularly for their lifestyle choice. Sick Boy, Spud, and Renton are all substance addicts who spend their days shooting up in their drug dealer, Swanee's flat. Swanee is often referred to as the Mother Superior by the guys. One day, Renton decides to give up substance. He decides to employ Sick Boy's method of locking himself in a cheap rented room with enough food, equipment, and supplies to endure the withdrawal. Realizing he needs one last high to get him through the night, he breaks himself out of his room and buys opium rectal suppositories from dealer Mikey Forrester. After this final hit, Renton returns to the cheap room to finish the process. He later goes to a nightclub with the gang. He eventually leaves with a young woman named Diane. After spending time together, Diane refuses to sleep in the same room as Renton and forces him to sleep in the hallway on a sofa. In the morning, Renton realizes that Diane is in fact a 15-year-old schoolgirl and the flatmates sitting around the breakfast table are in fact her parents. Horrified, Renton tries to shake off the incident but remains friends with Diane, who threatens to tell the police otherwise. Tommy is dumped by his girlfriend Lizzie after a string of events unintentionally initially started by Renton. Renton had borrowed a tape of Tommy and Lizzie, without their consent, hiding it in the box of a football tape. Lizzie angrily believes that Tommy had mistakenly returned the tape to the video store. Tommy gets Sick Boy, Spud, and Renton to join him on a walk in the Scottish Highlands at the end of a train line, but the guys are reluctant, believing they're being punished by Tommy for the hard time he's receiving from Lizzie. Tommy tries to convince them that they'll be getting fresh air and seeing the great outdoors of their country, but Renton retorts, saying that Scottish culture is highly unappreciated by the rest of the world. At that point, Sick Boy, Spud, and Renton decide to use substance again, and a broken-hearted Tommy asks to try it to see why they like it so much, despite Renton's reluctance. One day during a substance-induced stupor, the gang are interrupted by Allison, who is screaming hysterically because her infant child, Dawn, has died from neglect. All are shell-shocked, especially Sick Boy, who is implied to be the baby's father. Something crashes in Sick Boy and he becomes more nihilistic than ever, living only to feed his and his friends' addiction. Renton and Spud are later caught stealing from a bookshop and are pursued by security guards, as seen in the beginning of the film. Sick Boy eludes the police despite the theft being his idea. Due to prior convictions, Spud is sent to prison whereas Renton is put on intervention program. Despite support from friends and family, Renton becomes increasingly bored and depressed and escapes to Swanee's flat, where he takes a particularly strong hit and nearly dies. At a local emergency room, Renton is brought out of his trip and his parents pick him up. Determined to make him kick, they lock him in his room so he can beat his addiction cold turkey. If you have come this far in the video, please subscribe to this channel to never miss amazing content like this. As Renton lies in bed going through severe withdrawal symptoms, he hallucinates that Diane is singing to him, friends are giving him advice, and Allison's dead baby is crawling on the ceiling. The hallucination sequence is intercut with weird, imagined scenes from a TV game show, with Dale Winton asking Renton's parents questions about HIV. Renton is finally woken from his nightmares and is told by his parents that he needs to get tested. Despite years of sharing syringes with other addicts, Renton's test comes back negative. Clean of substance, Renton decides to visit Tommy, who, by now, is lost in his substance addiction and has contracted HIV. He's living in a filthy flat. Renton gives Tommy a little money to get by. On Diane's advice, Renton moves to London and gets a job as a property letting agent. He begins enjoying his new life of sobriety, but it's short-lived after Begbie's involved in an armed robbery. He turns up at Renton's flat, using it to hide out, disrupting Renton's life with his freeloading ways. One day Bagby has Renton lay a bet on a horse race and it hits, coming in with enough money for them to enjoy a brief period of revelry. At the dance club they go to, Bagby finds a woman whom he pursues, only to find that the person is not interested. He angrily tells Renton that he's not gay and attacks Renton when he suggests it could have turned into a beautiful night for Bagby. Sick Boy, who now sees himself as a well-connected pimp, also shows up on Renton's doorstep. Renton's friends make his life more miserable, stealing from him and trashing his flat. Sick Boy steals and sells Renton's television, despite the fact that it was a rental, and then has the temerity to ask Renton if he wants to sell his passport. Renton takes his passport and stores it in a train station locker. Seeking to rid himself of them, Renton gives them a flat he's responsible for. However, Renton doesn't charge them rent to live there. Their squatting is discovered when Renton's boss finds a couple willing to live there. However, at this point the three have to return to Edinburgh when they learn Tommy has died. Back home, they meet Spud, who's been released from prison. Sick Boy suggests a risky but profitable substance transaction via Mikey Forrester. Sick Boy needs Renton's help of £4,000 to buy the supply. After the purchase, Renton checks the product himself. The four then travel back to London to sell. On the bus down, Bagby is extremely nervous and uptight since the police are still searching for him. Renton promises himself one final hit before they reach London and ponders if he'll become addicted again. They meet the dealer in a hotel room, and after a purity check and a bit of haggling, they agree on £16,000. They all go to a pub to celebrate, all of them friendlier and happier than they usually are, and discuss their plans to spend their share of the money. Renton suggests to Spud that they steal the money and run as Bagby and Sick Boy get drinks in. Spud is too scared of Bagby to consider it. Renton believes that neither Bagby nor Sick Boy deserve the money. As Bagby heads back to the table with another round of pints, he bumps into another patron and spills much of the beer he bought. When the man apologizes, Bagby turns violent and smashes the man's face with one of the glasses. As he moves in to cut the man with a knife, he slashes Spud's hand. Bagby becomes more ominously sociopathic and demands that Renton light a cigarette for him. Realizing that he's probably matured more than his friends and, with the exception of Spud, they're more of a danger to him now, Renton decides to leave them while taking the money. Early in the morning, Renton wakes up before anyone else and takes the money from Bagby, leaving quietly. Spud sees him leave but says nothing. Renton gives him an affirmative nod. After Bagby discovers the money has gone, he trashes the hotel room in a violent rage that alerts the police, presumably leading to his arrest. Renton walks out into London and vows to live the traditional, stable life he talked about in the beginning of the film. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know in the comment section below which movie you want us to recap next. As always, until the next time.